This is Brendan from LemWatch. Today we're going to look at some of the common better stack mistakes that can actually hurt performance instead of helping you monitor your systems. Better stack is a powerful platform, but like many tools, if it's set up the wrong way, it can create confusion, unnecessary alerts, or even hide real problems. So in this video, we'll go through a few mistakes that teams commonly make and how to fix them. A lot of teams install Better Stack and think the job is done. They turn on monitoring, maybe add a few alerts, and then move on. But monitoring tools only work well if they're configured properly. The problems usually show up later. Things like constant false alerts or missed incidents, confusing dashboards, and logs that are impossible to search. Most of the time, it's not the tool causing the issue, it's the setup. So let's look at a few mistakes that show up again and again. A very common mistake is monitoring only from one location. Teams leave the default settings and never change them. So if that one region experiences a temporary network issue, the system triggers a downtime alert. The website may actually be working perfectly for everybody else. So what's the result? You get false alarms. Engineers start getting alerts that aren't real incidents, and after a while, people begin ignoring alerts completely. And that's when real outages get missed. So how do you fix it? You use the multiple monitoring locations, and a better setup is to trigger an alert only when two or more regions fail. Another common mistake is sending alerts to everyone for absolutely everything. When teams first configure the monitoring, they often connect every notification channel. For example, Slack, email, SMS, webhooks, and everything fires at the same time. At first, this seems helpful, but very quickly it becomes noise. When alerts constantly appear, people start muting channels or ignoring notifications, and that defeats the purpose of monitoring. How do you fix that? Well, use escalation policies instead of sending alerts to everyone. You set them up in there. For example, say that your first alert goes to Slack, and if the issue isn't resolved within a time frame like 5 minutes, send a SMS, to a supervisor. If the problem then continues, escalate it to another engineer. This keeps alerts meaningful instead of overwhelming. Better Stack includes centralized logging, which is extremely useful during incidents. But another common mistake is logging absolutely everything. For example, every request, every bug message, or every tiny event. At first, this seems harmless, but over time, problems may appear. First, log storage grows quickly. So a lot of your log and its space available is being used up. The second, searching logs becomes harder because there's too much noise that you need to sift through. When a real incident happens, teams waste time digging through irrelevant data. And that fix is also quite simple. Be selective about what you log. Focus on things like errors, failed requests, authentication issues, and payment failures. These are the events that actually help diagnose incidents. Filtering early, like this, makes logs much more useful later. For context, this is how we do this in LemWatch, which is the tool we use ourselves. LemWatch focuses on simplifying monitoring and incident visibility. Instead of layering many complex monitoring features, LemWatch focuses on clear uptime signals and straightforward alerts. This helps teams quickly understand whether something is working or not without spending too much time configuring the system. For many founders and smaller teams, simplicity can make monitoring easier to manage. If you're using BetterStack, take some time to review your setup. Check your monitoring locations, reduce alert noise, and clean up logs. Small adjustments like that can make a big difference in how reliable your monitoring becomes. If you're exploring monitoring tools and want a simpler approach focused on uptime clarity, then LemWatch may be worth exploring. If you want to see this approach in full, LemWatch is linked below.